General Hospital spoilers reveal that an unforeseeable disaster has struck Port Charles, and this time, it didn't come from a criminal organization or some distant underworld force, but from those who were considered closest. Gio, a young man full of passion and ambition, who has been struggling to find his place among the complex pieces of the Chirullo, Quatermain, and Corinthos families, has been thrust into the worst nightmare of his life, becoming the victim of a violent attack by none other than Danny, someone once regarded as an ally, a friend, an extension of the very world Gio has been trying to enter. No one close by reacted in time or stopped it, because in an instant, Danny's long-suppressed trauma, anger, and fear erupted like a storm, consuming his reason and dragging everything into the darkness of irreversible consequences. In his mind, torn apart by rage and haunted by fear after Rocco's life was endangered, Danny became convinced that Gio was behind it all. No proof, no confirmation, not even a clear sign, just fear, eating away at his rationality and blinding him from the truth. For Danny, Rocco's endangerment was the last straw. And in that moment of panic, with chaos flooding his mind, Gio became the target, a perceived enemy he needed to eliminate at once. When Danny charged, Gio barely had a chance to defend himself. The attack happened so quickly that no one could intervene. And when Gio collapsed, blood spreading across the floor, the entire room fell into a chilling, heavy silence, one so suffocating and haunting it took everyone's breath away. Gio was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, with severe head trauma, multiple fractures, and signs of massive blood loss. Doctors had no choice but to perform emergency surgery while preparing aggressive resuscitation measures to keep him alive on the razor's edge between life and death. But for those who love Gio, those who know he is too young, with so much life still ahead, especially the truth about his own bloodline, this is no longer just a medical emergency. It's a tragedy unfolding minute by minute, where every prayer is drowned out by helplessness. In the waiting room, Brooke Lynn stood frozen, unable to believe that the child she once carried and gave up because of circumstances now lay between life and death, while all she could do was wait. Dante stood beside her, fists clenched, jaw tight, struggling to contain the emotion screaming inside him. Neither of them, though never having spoken the truth aloud, could deny the terrifying reality. They were facing the possibility of losing their biological son. Worse still, the boy might die never knowing who he truly is. When Sonny received the news, he nearly lost control. He had lost too much already, witnessed too much bloodshed caused by his own decisions. Michael, Morgan, Avery, Donna, all had been drawn into the vortex of guilt and violence he created. But Sonny never imagined that Gio, the sweet boy who called him uncle with admiring eyes, would be the next victim. What Sonny doesn't yet know is that Gio is actually his biological grandson. And that truth magnifies the pain tenfold. Not only had he failed to protect a child, but he let his own flesh and blood fall without knowing it. Jason now finds himself caught between two worlds. One is Sonny, the man he loves like a brother, and the other is Danny, the boy he once saw as a nephew. And he must now face the truth. He failed to stop the spiral of trauma and hatred in Danny's mind. He thought he could control it, believed Danny was just acting out, needing time to heal. But now, he has to confront the consequences of his hesitation, a boy on the operating table, a family on the verge of breaking, and a city reeling from a storm born not from enemies, but from those closest to each other. This attack was not just a blow, not merely a moment of lost control. It symbolizes the silent collapse of trust and the bonds between people who thought they knew one another. And if Gio doesn't survive, it's not just a life lost, it's the burial of truth. About his parents, his blood, and the love lost because of wrong choices. Even if he survives, what will remain? A soul broken not just by physical wounds but by betrayal from those he trusted most? Port Charles has never faced a tragedy as painful or maddening, where the attacker isn't a stranger, but family, and the victim isn't an outsider, but a forgotten child abandoned by those meant to protect him first. And in the coming days, everyone will have to face a terrifying truth: disasters don't always come from the outside. Sometimes The greatest catastrophe comes from within the hearts of those we love. Gio now teeters on the brink of life and death, and what makes his situation even more dire and chaotic is a stark medical reality. His body is deteriorating rapidly, vital functions are collapsing. And to survive, he needs an emergency blood transfusion, possibly even a partial liver transplant. But as family members rush to the hospital with the desperate hope that one of them could save him, each test result crushed that hope further. No one, not Lois, not Brooklyn, not Dante, not anyone from the Cerullo or Quartermain families, had a matching blood type or genetic compatibility. Then, in a moment of suffocating silence throughout the hospital corridor, a shocking truth came to light. The only person who could save Gio was Sonny. The story suddenly turned in a way no one could have anticipated. Emotions erupted. Every eye turned to Sonny, the man who has long stood at the center of power, but also at the heart of Port Charles's darkest tragedies. He is not just a symbol, a leader, a father. Now he is the only one who can save the life of a child he believed was someone else's grandson. But the test results say otherwise. And if they're true, then Gio is not just a patient in need of blood, he needs the blood of his biological grandfather. This is no longer just a medical case. It's the unraveling of every layer of secrecy this family has built. Sonny, who always believed he knew who belonged to whom, must now face the fact that a part of his own blood flows in a boy he cherished but never knew the full extent of his connection to. Gio is not just someone Sonny protected out of affection, he is family. And to save him, Sonny must step into a role he never imagined, that of a true grandfather. Willing to sacrifice part of his own body, not for honor, not for guilt, but for love. This moment changes not only Sonny, it changes everything. Lois, who has kept the truth hidden for years, is now cornered. She can no longer protect her secrets when her son's life depends on the very person she once swore would never be part of it. Brooklyn and Dante, who never dared voice their suspicions about Joe's paternity, now face the bitter truth. Their silence might cost their son his life. Jason, Nina, Olivia, everyone who thought Sonny controlled everything, now see him backed into a corner with only one choice: act, or watch Gio die. What makes the situation even more harrowing is that Sonny never imagined he'd be the only one who could save someone, not through power, not through influence or violence, but with his own body. His own blood and liver. A cruel irony, the man who caused so many others to bleed must now give his blood to save a life. A life that not only represents innocence but might be the only legacy that can redeem his soul. This is no longer a story about medicine, it is a story about awakening. About love forced to be acknowledged at the edge of life and death. About secrets that can no longer be buried when genetics speak louder than silence. And about a grandfather, once consumed by violence and power, now forced to kneel before the life of a child to rediscover the humanity he nearly lost. Sonny will walk into the operating room not as a leader, but as a man trying to atone for all his past mistakes, by giving up part of his own life to save the grandson he never knew he had. And when Gio opens his eyes, if he lives to do so, the first face he'll see won't be that of a stranger named Sonny, but the grandfather who gave up everything to keep him in this world. A story that is mad, haunting, yet beautiful, in the most heartbreaking way Port Charles has ever known. Sonny is truly exhausted. Facing a relentless series of chaotic events, not from outside enemies, as he's battled for years in the business world and the underworld, but from his own flesh and blood. These are people he should have been able to trust completely, yet they've become the source of constant headaches and crises that are dragging him into utter fatigue. The peace Sonny worked so hard to rebuild after countless losses and bloodshed is now falling apart, piece by piece. As the relationships within his family begin to shake under the weight of long-buried secrets, unhealed wounds, and hidden truths that are leaving even the insiders lost and directionless. At the center of Sonny's worry and confusion is Gio, a boy he's always felt an inexplicable connection to, as if tied by an invisible thread he couldn't explain. From brief encounters and simple conversations to Joe's unguarded look of admiration, Sonny had always felt something deep, yet never dared explore it. Now, with Gio lying in the ICU, his life hanging by a thread, all those repressed emotions are exploding into a storm within Sonny that has no outlet. And the most shocking part? Sonny has just discovered that he's the only person with the rare blood type and genetic match needed to save Joe's life. This isn't coincidence, it's fate. It's undeniable proof of the blood bond between him and the boy he once thought was a stranger. The truth rocks Sonny to his core. Because if Gio is his biological grandson, then who are his parents? The answer doesn't take long to surface. Dante's avoidance, Brooke Lynn's painful silence, Lois's evasive answers whenever Gio asked about his father, everything now becomes crystal clear. Sonny knows, without question, that Dante is Joe's father. And that realization shatters Sonny's world more deeply than any enemy ever could. A blood relative, hidden from him. A son, Dante, who once fought and sacrificed, but couldn't find the courage to acknowledge his own child. And now, that silence is costing more than emotional pain, it could cost Gio his life. Sonny understands that time is running out. Gio can't wait another minute. Doctors have made it clear, if a matching liver donor isn't found immediately, Joe's chances of survival are nearly zero. And if Sonny is the only one who can save him, he will do it, without hesitation or calculation. But beyond walking into that operating room, Sonny knows he must do something even more important. He must force Dante to face the truth. Gio cannot wake up from surgery and continue living in a lie, a world where his biological father remains silent. Where he feels like an outsider with no real belonging. Sonny won't let that happen, not even for a second. Throughout his years of battling enemies, Sonny always lived by a rule. Confront your enemies, protect your family. But now, the danger to Gio isn't from an enemy, it's from silence, fear, and the wrong choices of those closest to him. And so, Sonny must act before everything falls apart. He won't let Dante run anymore. He won't let Brooke Lynn continue to hide the truth. And he absolutely won't let Gio die alone. In a family that never acknowledged him. The father-son relationship between Dante and Gio, long hidden, is now at the heart of a crisis like no other. No one can pretend anymore. No one can let emotion override responsibility. Dante must stand before his son, take his hand, and speak the truth, even if Gio isn't awake to hear it. Because if Gio dies not knowing who he truly is, that will be an irredeemable wound, one that Sonny, Dante, and the entire family will carry forever. Sonny knows this. And as a grandfather, a father, and the head of the family, he knows the time to delay is over. He must act, not just to save Joe's life, but to save the last shred of humanity still left in a family being buried by secrets, schemes, and fear. And this time, Sonny can't fix things with power or intimidation. He must fix them with truth. With sacrifice. With his own flesh and blood. And if this is the only way to save Gio, then Sonny will do it, without hesitation, without looking back. Because he cannot bear another loss. Not this time. Not when it's his only grandchild. Meanwhile, the tension between Tracy and Lois is boiling over, becoming a quiet earthquake within the Quartermain family, a long-suppressed, toxic energy now erupting into an uncontrollable chain of events. These two strong, headstrong women with a long history of personal conflict are clashing again, but this time, it's about far more than just typical disagreements. Their conflict is being fueled by unspoken secrets, unhealed wounds, and a truth so disruptive it threatens to unravel the entire family structure they're trying to preserve. Amid this toxic atmosphere, a new psychological shift is forming, not just in words, but in calculations, decisions, and consequences that are ready to explode. Lois, who has worked tirelessly to keep Joe's true identity a secret, is now cornered, as everything she tried to hide is being exposed. Her relationship with Brooke Lynn is fracturing. Her silence toward Dante has become an unbearable burden. And worse, Tracy's judgmental glare carries not only suspicion, but a long-held, simmering fury. Tracy has always seen Lois as a disruptor, an outsider meddling in the family legacy she's tried to control. But this time, when Joe's life, a potential direct Quartermain heir, is at risk. Tracy can no longer stay silent. She starts asking questions. She starts making assumptions. And she starts demanding answers. Lois, for her part, is no longer in a position to control the narrative. Every question from Tracy is like a dagger cutting through the walls Lois has spent years building. She's not just afraid of the truth, she's terrified of what it could cost her, Brooke Lynn's trust, Dante's forgiveness, and her final bond with Gio. But the craziest part is, her silence is causing a psychological shift in everyone around her. No one fully trusts her anymore. And no one looks at her with innocent eyes. That realization is forcing Lois to start calculating, not to keep hiding, but to figure out what, if anything, can still be saved from this chaos. This tension is no longer just between two women, it's becoming a catalyst for deep transformation in the entire family. Tracy, usually cold and calculating, is now driven by a rare emotion, fear. She's afraid that if Lois doesn't reveal the truth, chaos will consume not just the family but its reputation, legacy, and pride, everything she's fought to protect for the Quartermains. And when Tracy begins acting from emotion, a rare occurrence, things become far more volatile. She doesn't just want the truth. She wants to control it. She wants to redefine Joe's future. And through that, reshape the family's power structure. These strategic moves, by both Tracy and Lois, are putting everyone in a dangerous position. Brooke Lynn no longer knows whom to side with. Dante fears that if the truth comes out too late, he'll lose his chance to be a father forever. And Sonny, having just discovered he is Joe's grandfather, now faces a harsh truth. If Tracy and Lois continue this battle, Gio may not survive long enough to ever learn who he really is. Everything is reaching a boiling point. A reckoning is coming, a truth forced into the light, and when it emerges, everything will change. No one will be able to stand on the sidelines. No one can pretend anymore. One of the darkest chapters in the Quartermain family is about to begin, sparked by a smoldering confrontation. And ending in a collapse of all the secrets wrapped in false hugs and peacekeeping smiles. And when it happens, not everyone will be left standing. The pressure Sonny is currently enduring is no longer just a string of personal annoyances or typical family troubles, it is a full-blown mental storm. Pounding relentlessly against his heart like a series of unending blows. From the life-threatening situation of Gio, a grandson he just discovered shares a profound blood connection, to Danny's uncontrollable rebellion, Dante's suspicious silence. The unresolved tension with Nina, and now a flood of unburied secrets, Sonny no longer has the time to breathe, the clarity to analyze each situation, or the calm to steady his heart as he once could. With each passing day, he is being pulled deeper into a maze of pressure, where there is no clear way out. And most terrifying of all, his body has started to speak out. The first sign of a recurring heart issue came as a mild, ignorable pain, just like those he had stubbornly brushed off in the past. But this time, the pain didn't go away. It lingered, grew heavier. And now it's no longer a warning, it's a death knell echoing in his chest amid emergency phone calls, chaotic family meetings, and Brooke Lynn's desperate, pleading eyes in the hospital hallway as Gio fights for his life. Sonny knows he cannot collapse, not now, but his body is betraying him by the hour, by the minute. His heart skips beats. His breathing grows labored. Cold sweat beads on his skin even as he stands still. Yet instead of resting, instead of going to the hospital, he keeps pushing. Stepping into each confrontation like he's invincible, because he believes if he stops, everything will fall apart. Then, one night in his office, while trying to access Joe's medical records, hoping to use his influence to expedite the liver donor testing, Sonny collapses, clutching his chest, vision blurring. This time, the pain isn't ignorable. It's not a warning. It's a full-blown heart attack, serious, direct, and urgent. The shockwaves of that moment don't just hit Sonny's body, they ripple across Port Charles like a silent explosion. The man everyone thought was untouchable, has finally been brought down by the very thing he always tried to hide, pain, pressure, and love too tightly bottled up. Jason and Dante rush to the hospital as soon as they hear the news. Even Carly, still recovering from her own injuries, arrives, her face pale at the sight of the man she once deeply loved. Now lying motionless, the heart monitor beeping sporadically. This heart attack doesn't just threaten Sonny's life, it pushes all the delayed confrontations into the open. Gio still needs a liver transplant. Sonny is the only viable match. But if he doesn't survive, Joe's life ends with him. And that forces everyone to face the harsh truth. If they continue to stay silent, continue to run, they won't just lose Sonny, they'll lose Gio too. A new reckoning has arrived, not because of a hidden secret, but because of the devastating consequences of trying to carry too much, of trying to control everything without confronting real emotions. Sonny, once the pillar of strength, is now the most vulnerable, not because he isn't strong enough, but because his heart simply can't carry it all anymore. A medical crisis may take his life, but the more brutal blow would be waking up and realizing he nearly died while the people around him still refused to tell the truth, still hadn't reconciled, still hid behind outdated defenses. Port Charles won't be the same after this moment. Sonny, the once unchallenged powerhouse, the emotional anchor, has now become a living symbol of human limits. Of the cost of too much sacrifice, too much love, and too few words. And as he lies unconscious, those left behind must choose, keep fighting for pride, or let it go to save a dying child, and salvage what's left of their unraveling family. Because if they don't, this pain won't end with Sonny, it will ripple through all who survive him, leaving behind a legacy that no one will be able to cleanse.